3 colleagues, 1 hidden camera, a blind date designed to prove their company's golden boy is a fraud. Hunter Lawson built his career on inclusion, on caring, on being the good guy in a cutthroat industry. They were sure it was all a performance. They thought they were setting the perfect trap. They had no idea they were about to capture something that would change everything, just not the way they planned. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. "He's late," Derek muttered, his thumb hovering over the record button. His 2 colleagues, Greg and Tim, leaned closer, eyes fixed on the entrance. "Relax," Greg whispered. "He'll show. Hunter Lawson doesn't break promises. That's his whole thing, remember? Mr. Perfect, Mr. Nice Guy." Tim snorted. "Yeah, well, let's see how nice he is when he realizes what we've set him up with." Derek's jaw tightened. A deaf woman. We told him blonde, 30, named Megan, left out one tiny detail. "Think he'll bolt immediately?" Tim asked, adjusting his phone angle.
"Doesn't matter when," Derek said coldly. "What matters is we catch it. The moment he realizes, the look on his face, the excuse he makes, whatever, we post it anonymously to the career forum and boom, the CFO sees the real Hunter Lawson. No way he promotes someone capable of that." Greg shifted uncomfortably. "You really think he'll be that harsh?" "Everyone has a breaking point," Derek said. "Tonight we find his." Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. At 6:55 p.m., Hunter Lawson pushed through the restaurant doors, his heart hammering against his ribs in a way that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. 4 years. 4 years since he'd done anything remotely like this. The hostess greeted him with a professional smile. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Meeting someone, actually. Blind date. Her name's Megan, blonde, around 30. "Of course, right this way." She led him to a table near the window where amber evening light spilled across white tablecloths. Hunter sat down, his hands restless. He caught his reflection in the window, navy shirt, clean jeans, the face of a man who'd forgotten how to do this. June's voice echoed in his memory from earlier that evening. "Daddy, you look handsome. Are you going to marry her?" He laughed, kissed her curly brown hair. "It's just one date, Bug. Don't get ahead of yourself." But now, sitting here, his daughter's hope felt like a weight on his chest. What was he doing? He'd locked this part of himself away for good reason. June needed stability, not... The door opened. Hunter's breath caught.
Megan Smith stepped into the Riverside Grill at exactly 7:02 p.m., her long blonde hair catching the light in a way that made her seem almost ethereal. She wore a simple dress that somehow managed to look both elegant and approachable. Her eyes scanned the restaurant with practiced caution, the look of someone who'd learned to assess situations before fully entering them. The hostess approached, spoke to her. Megan's gaze tracked the woman's lips with intense focus. Then she nodded, responded. Her voice had a particular quality, clear but slightly modulated, the voice of someone who couldn't hear their own volume. From the corner position, Derek hit record. "Here we go," he whispered. Hunter stood as Megan approached his table, his instincts firing on multiple levels at once. The way her eyes had tracked the hostess's lips, the slight delay in her response, the careful way she navigated the space. "Megan?" he said, extending his hand. "I'm Hunter." She smiled, genuinely, beautifully, and took his hand. "It's so nice to meet you," she said, her eyes focused intently on his mouth as he spoke. In that split second, understanding crashed over Hunter like a wave. She was deaf. His colleagues had set him up on a blind date with a deaf woman and hadn't bothered to tell him. They told him everything, except that. The realization should have made him angry, and part of him was, but a larger part felt something entirely different. Something that reached back through years of memory to his mother's hands moving through the air. teaching him a language before he could fully speak his own. From the corner booth, Derek leaned forward, a sinister smile curling at the edges of his mouth. His phone was already recording, held steady, as he waited, hungry, for the moment Hunter would crack, the moment the mask would finally rip away. Of course he'd reject her, cruelly, publicly. He'd lash out, storm off, leaving her sitting there in humiliation, and when he did, they'd have the proof they'd been praying for. Instead, Hunter smiled, soft, steady, unwavering. He stepped forward, pulled out Megan's chair with a gentleness that made her pause, and then, as she sat, he lifted his hands. His fingers moved with effortless grace, fluent and warm, each sign slicing through the silence like a miracle Megan never expected. "It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for being here." The entire restaurant froze, and in the corner booth, Derek's foe nearly slipped from his grip. "Wait, what is he doing?" Greg breathed, leaning forward so abruptly he almost knocked over his water glass. Are those sign language?" Derek finished, his voice hollow. "He knows sign language." Megan's entire body went still. Her eyes, those careful, guarded eyes that had learned to expect disappointment, went impossibly wide. Her mouth formed a perfect O of absolute shock. For 3 full seconds, she simply stared at his hands, then at his face, then back at his hands, as if she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. Her own hands flew up, trembling slightly. "You know sign language?" "My mother was deaf," Hunter signed back, settling into his chair with an ease that spoke of decades of practice. "It's still my first language, honestly." Megan's hands dropped to the table. She pressed them flat against the white tablecloth as if she needed to ground herself. When she looked up at him, her eyes were glistening with something between disbelief and overwhelming relief. "I wasn't expecting," she signed, then stopped, started again. "Nobody ever—" Another pause. "You're really fluent?" 35 years of practice, Hunter signed with a gentle smile. "My mom made sure of it. Said if I was going to live in her world, I needed to speak her language properly." In the corner booth, the 3 men sat frozen, their carefully constructed plan crumbling in real time. "This can't be happening," Derek muttered, his knuckles white around his phone. He can't—" "Maybe it's an act," Tim whispered desperately. "Maybe he learned a few signs to impress her, and he'll mess up soon." "Look at him," Greg interrupted, his voice strange. "That's not a few signs, that's fluent. He's actually having a conversation." They watched as Hunter's hands moved with fluid grace, as Megan's shoulders gradually relaxed, as her guarded expression melted into something open and genuine. They watched her laugh, a real, unguarded laugh that made nearby diners turn and smile. "He's supposed to be making excuses right now," Derek said, his voice rising slightly with panic and confusion. "He's supposed to look uncomfortable, to check his watch, to—" "He looks happy," Greg said quietly. And he did. Hunter Lawson leaned forward with genuine interest, his entire face animated as his hands moved through signs. There was nothing forced about it, nothing performative. He wasn't tolerating the situation or playing nice for appearances. He was connecting. Actually, genuinely connecting. "Keep recording," Derek ordered, though his voice had lost its earlier conviction. "Maybe he's just wait. Everyone cracks eventually." But even as he said it, watching Hunter laugh at something Megan signed, watching the 2 of them fall into easy conversation like old friends, Derek felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest. It looked a lot like doubt. The conversation that unfolded over the next 20 minutes was unlike anything Megan had experienced in 3 years of catastrophic blind dates. Hunter didn't speak slowly or exaggerate his signs. He didn't treat her like she was fragile or simple. He just talked to her, like she was a person he genuinely wanted to know. "So you're a freelance writer," Hunter signed, leaning forward with real interest. "What kind of writing?" "Content marketing, mostly," Megan signed back, her shoulders gradually relaxing. "Technical documentation, website copy, the occasional blog post. It's not exactly creative writing, but it pays well and I can work from anywhere." "That's incredible. Building your own business like that takes serious discipline." Megan's hands moved with more confidence now. "What about you? What do you do?" I'm a therapist at a downtown firm. Workplace counseling, conflict resolution, that kind of thing. I've been there about a year. Do you like it? Hunter paused, considering. I do, though lately it's been complicated. Office politics. You know how it is. Actually, I don't, Megan signed with a playful expression. One of the perks of working from home, my biggest office politics issue is whether the cat gets to sit on my keyboard. Hunter laughed, a real, genuine laugh that made several nearby diners glance over with smiles. Okay, you win. That sounds infinitely better than my current situation. A server approached to take their order. Hunter smoothly transitioned to speaking aloud for the server while simultaneously signing for Megan, translating the specials without her having to ask. It was such a natural, considerate gesture that Megan felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been closed for a long time. You have a daughter, Megan signed after their food arrived, her expression thoughtful. Most men don't mention their kids on first dates until at least date 3. Hunter's face softened in a way that transformed his entire appearance. Her name's June. She's 7, obsessed with volcanoes, and currently convinced that our cat is secretly plotting world domination. She sounds amazing. She is. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Hunter's hands moved with such tenderness. And honestly, if someone can't handle that I come as a package deal, better to know now. June's not a secret or a complication. She's my whole world.
Megan set down her fork, her full attention on him. Your wife? She signed carefully. The question hung in the air between them. Hunter's hands faltered for just a moment, the first time all evening he'd hesitated. When he continued, his signs were slower, weighted with old grief. She passed away 4 years ago. June was 3. It was a heart condition nobody knew about, not even her. One day Sophia was planning June's birthday party, and 3 days later, he stopped. Started again. I've spent 4 years learning how to be both parents, learning to braid hair from YouTube, learning that princess movies can actually be pretty good if you watch them 60 times. He attempted a smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. I locked myself away from anything relationship-related after that. Told myself June needed stability, routine, just her and me. This is actually the first date I've been on since. My daughter kept asking why I never did anything fun anymore, and I realized I didn't have a good answer. Megan reached across the table, not quite touching his hand, but close enough that he could feel the warmth of her intention. Her eyes held such gentle understanding. I'm so sorry, she signed. That must have been incredibly hard. Still is, I imagine. It was. It is. Hunter looked down at their almost touching hands. But June's taught me something important. You can't hide from life forever just because you're scared of losing again. At some point, you have to choose to live, not just survive. Is that what tonight is? Megan signed, a playful challenge in her expression. Choosing to live? Surprisingly, yes, Hunter signed back, his smile genuine now. You're much better company than my usual Friday night dates with a 7-year-old and whatever animated movie is her current obsession. Megan laughed, a sound that made nearby diners turn and smile, a sound that was unguarded and real. From his surveillance position, Derek's colleagues were growing restless.
This is a complete bust, Greg muttered. He's actually enjoying himself. Look at him. Maybe he's just being polite, Tim offered weakly, waiting for the right moment to bail. But even as he said it, none of them believed it. They were watching something they hadn't anticipated. Genuine connection. Real conversation. A man treating a woman with respect and interest, not as a charity case or a cruel punchline. Keep recording, Derek said, though doubt had crept into his voice like water through cracks. By the time dessert arrived, Hunter and Megan had discovered a dozen shared interests. Both loved hiking but were terrible at identifying plants. Both thought pineapple on pizza was a crime against humanity. Both had read the same obscure fantasy series and had passionate opinions about the ending. Tell me about your mother, Megan signed, her hands moving with careful curiosity. What was she like?
Hunter's expression grew tender, distant with memory. Fierce. That's the word that always comes to mind. She refused to let anyone make her feel less than because she couldn't hear. She worked as a teacher at a school for deaf children, and she was absolutely beloved. Students would come back years later just to visit her. She sounds wonderful. She was. She taught me that disability isn't weakness or limitation. It's just a different way of experiencing the world. She also made the best chocolate chip cookies in existence. I could win any argument without saying a single word. Megan's hands moved slowly. She would have been proud of you. The way you signed tonight, the respect in it, that came from her. I hope so. Hunter paused. Then his hands moved with careful deliberation. Megan, I need to tell you something. I didn't know why my colleagues were so eager to set up this date, but about halfway through dinner, I noticed them. He gestured subtly toward the corner booth. 3 guys from my office. And they've been recording us. Megan's hands stilled. Her face flickered through emotions. Confusion, hurt, dawning understanding, then something harder. Anger. Recording us, she signed sharply. I think this was meant to be some kind of test, Hunter signed, his jaw tight. There's a promotion at stake. They wanted to see if I'd... He couldn't quite finish the thought. If you'd be decent to the disabled girl, Megan signed, her hands cutting through the air with barely contained fury. Yes.
For a long moment, Megan didn't sign anything. She just looked at Hunter, her eyes searching his face for something... truth, maybe, or proof that he was different from every other disappointment. I've been on 17 blind dates in the past 3 years, she finally signed, each movement weighted with exhausted resignation. 17 times I've watched men's faces change when they realize I'm deaf. Some leave immediately, at least they're honest. Some stay out of pity, which is worse. Some treat me like I'm fragile or simple-minded, speaking loudly and slowly like I'm a child. Her hands trembled slightly. You're the first one who just treated me, like I'm just a person you wanted to know. Not a disability, not a charity case, not a test. She looked toward the corner booth, then back at Hunter. So what now? Was this real, or was I just part of their game? Hunter's hands moved with absolute conviction. Megan, I don't care what they intended. I don't care that they set this up to catch me being cruel, to sabotage my career, to prove my character is fake. He waited until her eyes met his fully. This, us, this conversation, this connection, has been the most real thing I've experienced in 4 years. You're funny, brilliant, talented, and you've reminded me that there's life beyond just surviving. He took a breath. If you'll let me, I'd like to see you again. Not because of some setup or test, not to prove anything to anyone, but because I genuinely want to know you better. Because when you laugh, it makes everyone around you smile. Because tonight has been special. Megan signed, a tentative hope in her expression. Exactly. The restaurant had grown quieter around them, other diners filtering out into the night. From their corner, Derek and his colleagues had long since stopped recording, the weight of what they'd done settling over them like ash. Megan's hands moved slowly, deliberately, each sign carrying the weight of 3 years of disappointment and 1 evening of unexpected hope. I'd like that too. The weekend that followed moved with the strange, suspended quality of a dream that might dissolve if examined too closely. Saturday morning, Hunter made pancakes while June sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs and chattering about the science project she wanted to do on volcanoes. Bug, I need to tell you something, Hunter said, sliding a pancake onto her plate. June looked up, her curly brown hair wild from sleep. What? Remember how I went on that date last night? The one where you looked all fancy and nervous? Hunter smiled, despite himself. Yeah, that one. Well, I met someone really special.
Her name is Megan, and I'm going to see her again tomorrow. She might come over here, actually. June's eyes went impossibly wide. To our house? Is she nice? Does she like volcanoes? Can I meet her? Yes, probably and definitely. But there's something else you should know. Megan is deaf, which means she can't hear. She talks with her hands using sign language. June's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Like in that video you showed me about Grandma? Something warm bloomed in Hunter's chest. Exactly like that. I thought maybe if you wanted, we could practice some signs together before she comes over. Yes! Can I learn how to say volcanoes are awesome? We'll work on it. Saturday afternoon arrived with the particular anxiety of introducing two parts of your life and hoping desperately they'd fit together. Hunter had cleaned the house 3 times. June had changed outfits twice, finally settling on her favorite purple shirt with sparkly stars. The cat had been bribed with treats to behave. Everything was as ready as it could be. When the doorbell rang at 2 o'clock, June bolted for the door with the speed of a small, excited missile. "Junie, slow down," Hunter called, but she was already yanking the door open. Megan stood on the porch holding a small bag and wearing jeans and a soft yellow sweater that made her look warm and approachable. When she saw June, her face lit up with genuine delight. June stared up at her, then carefully raised her hands in the signs Hunter had taught her. "Hello, nice to meet you." The signs were clumsy, her small hands uncertain, but Megan's eyes immediately filled with tears. She knelt down to June's level, her hands moving slowly, deliberately. "Hi, June. Your dad has told me so much about you. I heard you're an expert on volcanoes?" June looked back at Hunter, who quickly signed the translation. Her face exploded into the biggest smile. "I am!" she practically shouted, then remembered and signed, "Yes, do you want to see my books?" What followed was 2 hours of pure, unexpected joy. June dragged Megan to her room, showing her every volcano book, every rock collection, every drawing she'd made. Megan examined each one with genuine interest, asking questions through sign that Hunter translated, engaging with June's 7-year-old passion as if it were the most fascinating thing in the world. They moved to the kitchen for cookies and milk. June insisted on learning more signs, turning it into a game. She'd point at objects around the house, and Megan would show her the sign. "Cookie," June would sign, giggling. "Table," she'd sign next, her small hands moving with increasing confidence. When June accidentally signed bathroom instead of butterfly, all 3 of them dissolved into laughter, the kind that comes from pure happiness, untouched by cynicism or fear. At one point, June needed to use the actual bathroom. The moment she left, Megan turned to Hunter, her hands moving with emotion. "She's incredible," she signed. "You've done such a beautiful job with her." Some days I feel like I'm barely keeping it together, like I'm one forgotten permission slip away from being a complete disaster as a parent. "You're not," Megan signed firmly. "She's confident, curious, kind, and so full of love. That doesn't happen by accident. That comes from you." Hunter's throat tightened. He hadn't realized how badly he'd needed to hear that. June burst back into the kitchen, her hands moving in an enthusiastic but completely incorrect sign that was supposed to mean friend but actually meant something closer to cheese. Megan's eyes met Hunter's, both of them fighting not to laugh. In that moment, something shifted. Something that felt less like the beginning of something new and more like pieces that had always belonged together, finally finding their way home. Monday morning arrived with the particular dread of unfinished business. Hunter walked into the office to find Derek and his 2 colleagues huddled by the coffee machine, their body language screaming discomfort. When they saw him, all 3 physically flinched. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Finally, Derek cleared his throat. "Hunter, we need to talk." "I know what you did," Hunter said quietly, his voice carrying across the break room.
The confession came tumbling out like water through a broken dam. The promotion rumors, the insider information, the resentment that he, a newcomer of barely 12 months, was being considered for head therapist over people who'd been there for years. The bet. The plan to record his reaction to being set up with a disabled woman, to post it anonymously to the career forum, to destroy his reputation before the CFO could make the promotion official. "We thought," Derek's voice cracked, "we thought you were faking. The kindness, the work ethic, all of it. We thought it was an act to make yourself look good. So you decided to test me," Hunter said flatly. "Yes. And we were wrong. About everything." Greg couldn't meet his eyes. "We watched that whole date. Watched you treat her with respect and genuine interest. Watched you connect with her like a decent human being. And we realized we'd become people we're not proud of." Tim stepped forward. "We went to the CFO this morning, before we came to you, told him what we did, showed him the video, then deleted it. He's handling our disciplinary actions. But we wanted to apologize directly." Derek's voice was raw. "What we did was cruel. To you, and especially to Megan. Using someone's disability as a punchline, as bait, there's no excuse for that." Hunter was silent for a long moment, his hands clenched at his sides. When he finally spoke, his voice was controlled but laced with hurt. "You know what the saddest part is? If you'd just talked to me, gotten to know me, none of this would have been necessary. I'm not perfect. I lose my temper. I make mistakes. I burn dinner 3 times a week, and I still can't figure out how to make June's hair look decent for school photos." He looked at each of them in turn. "But I'm not putting on an act. I don't have the energy for that. I'm just trying to do good work and be a decent person. That shouldn't be threatening." "It's not," Derek said quietly. "We made it threatening because of our own insecurity and resentment. That's on us, not you." Hunter nodded slowly. "I appreciate you coming forward. It doesn't make it okay, but it's a start. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do." He poured his coffee and walked away, leaving 3 men to sit with the consequences of their choices. 2 weeks later, the promotion came through. Head therapist, significant raise, expanded responsibilities, an office with an actual window. But what mattered most to Hunter was the text waiting on his phone when he walked out of the CFO's office. "Congratulations. June and I are so proud. Dinner tonight to celebrate? I'll bring the non-pineapple pizza. Megan." Hunter smiled, his thumb hovering over the reply button. 4 years ago, he'd thought his story was finished, that he'd spend the rest of his life as just June's dad, going through the motions, surviving but not truly living. He'd been so wrong. He typed back, "It's a date. See you at 6. 6 months later, the Riverside Grill had become their place. Hunter and Megan sat at the same table where they'd first met, June wedged between them, her small hands moving through the sign for family with increasing confidence. "Again," June demanded, her curly hair bouncing. "I want to get it perfect." Megan guided her hands through the sign with endless patience, her face soft with affection. Hunter watched them, his heart so full it physically ached. But this time, the ache was good. It was the ache of healing, of something broken being carefully rebuilt into a new shape. "I have something to tell you," Megan signed to Hunter while June was distracted by her chocolate cake. "Good news or scary news?" Hunter signed back. "Both?" Megan's hands moved carefully, nervous. "I got a major new client. 6-month contract, really good money. They want me to take an office space downtown for in-person meetings." "Megan, that's incredible." "It's terrifying," she signed honestly. "I've been remote for so long, it feels safe, controlled. But I think I'm ready to put myself out there more, to be visible, to stop hiding." Hunter understood what she wasn't saying, that 6 months ago she'd been on her last blind date, resigned to isolation, Now she was choosing risk, choosing life. "I'm so proud of you," he signed. "And if you need someone to help move office furniture or bring coffee during long workdays, I know a guy." "Oh, really? Is he single?" "Definitely not," Hunter signed, grinning. "He's very happily taken by an incredible woman who is teaching his daughter sign language, who makes June laugh until she can't breathe, and who showed him that second chances at happiness are real."
June looked up from her dessert, chocolate smeared across her face, and signed with exaggerated care. "Are you guys being mushy again?" Both adults laughed, the kind of laughter that comes from pure joy. Megan signed back, very mushy. "Is that okay?" June pretended to consider it seriously, then signed, "I guess it's okay, but only because you're really nice and you don't like pineapple on pizza either. That's very important." As they left the restaurant that evening, Hunter carried June on his shoulders, while Megan walked beside them, her hand finding his. They made quite a picture. The single father who'd learned to parent alone, the daughter who'd lost her mother but found new love, and the woman who'd almost given up before finding connection in the most unexpected place. Derek passed them on the street, heading into the restaurant with his own family. He paused, met Hunter's eyes, and nodded, a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. Hunter nodded back. Some wounds healed with time, some relationships rebuilt stronger, and some mistakes became the foundation for growth. That night, after June was asleep and Megan had returned to her apartment, Hunter stood in his daughter's doorway watching her sleep. She clutched the stuffed volcano Megan had given her, her face peaceful in the soft glow of her nightlight. 1 year and 3 months after that first date, Hunter took Megan and June back to the Riverside Grill. "Why are we getting so dressed up?" June asked for the third time, smoothing down her navy blue dress. "It's just dinner." "It's a special dinner," Hunter said, adjusting his tie in the rearview mirror. His hands were shaking slightly, the same nervous energy he'd felt that first night, but amplified 100-fold. In his jacket pocket, a small velvet box pressed against his ribs with every breath. They were seated at their table, the same one where everything had begun. June chattered excitedly about her upcoming science fair project, while Megan smiled, her hands moving through responses that made June giggle. Halfway through dinner, Hunter's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then signed to Megan. "June, can you come here for a second?" June's bounced over, and Hunter whispered something in her ear. Her eyes went wide, and she nodded enthusiastically.
"Megan," June signed carefully, her small hands moving with the precision of months of practice. "Can I ask you something important?" Megan's brow furrowed with curiosity. "Of course, sweetie." June took a deep breath, then signed. "Would you like to be part of our family? Like, officially? Forever?" Megan's hands froze mid-sign. Her eyes darted to Hunter, who had stood up and moved beside the table. He was lowering himself to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Hunter's hands moved with trembling emotion as he signed, "Megan Smith, you walked into my life when I'd convinced myself I was done living. You saw me, really saw me, and chose to stay. You've taught June that love doesn't have limits. You've shown me that broken things can heal into something even more beautiful." He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring that caught the amber light. "I'm not asking you to complete us because we're not incomplete, but I am asking you to choose us every day, the way you've been choosing us for over a year. Will you marry me?" Megan's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. For a moment she couldn't move, couldn't sign, could only stare at the man kneeling before her and the little girl bouncing excitedly beside him. Then her hands moved, shaking but certain. "Yes, yes, yes, I'll marry you." The restaurant erupted in applause. June launched herself at both of them, creating a tangle of arms and laughter and happy tears. Hunter slipped the ring onto Megan's finger, then pulled both his girls close, his heart so full he thought it might burst. 3 months later, Megan stood in a bridal boutique, surrounded by soft, white fabric and the warm chatter of the shop owner. She'd tried on 4 dresses already, but this one, a simple A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves, felt right. She stood in front of the 3-way mirror, turning slowly, watching how the fabric moved. Her phone buzzed in her purse. The shop owner retrieved it for her, smiling. Text from Hunter. Megan's heart did its familiar flutter as she read, "June wants to know if your dress has sparkles. She's very concerned about the sparkle situation. Also, I miss you. Also, I love you. Also, 3 more weeks feels like forever. Also, did I mention I love you?" Megan typed back, "Tell June there are sparkles, or sort of. Lace counts, right? Miss you too. Love you more. 3 weeks will fly by. And yes, you mentioned it. Mention it again?" The response came immediately. "I love you. I love you. I love you. See you at home in an hour?" When Megan walked through the door of Hunter's house, their house now really, since she'd moved in 2 months ago, she was immediately ambushed by June. "Did you get a dress? Is it pretty? Does it have sparkles? Can I see pictures?" "No pictures," Megan signed with mock seriousness. "Your dad can't see it until the wedding. It's bad luck." "But I can see it, right?" "Of course you can. You're my maid of honor." June's face lit up like she'd been given the greatest gift in the world. Hunter emerged from the kitchen, still wearing his work shirt but with his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. He crossed the room and kissed Megan softly, his hand cupping her face with such tenderness it made her chest ache. "Good day?" he signed. "Perfect day," she signed back. "Found the dress." "Yeah?" "Yeah." "Can't wait to see you in it." His eyes held such love, such certainty, that Megan felt tears prick her eyes for the 2nd time that day. "Movie night," June announced, already pulling blankets and pillows onto the couch. "We're watching the volcano documentary I picked."
Hunter and Megan exchanged amused glances. A documentary on volcanoes wasn't exactly Megan's idea of relaxing Friday night entertainment, but watching June's enthusiasm made everything worthwhile. They settled onto the couch, June wedged between them, the cat sprawled across all their laps, blankets tangled around their legs. The documentary played on the TV, but none of them were really watching. June kept signing excited comments about lava flows. Hunter's arm stretched across the back of the couch, his fingers occasionally brushing Megan's shoulder. Megan's hand rested on June's curly hair, absently playing with her hair. This, Megan thought, this ordinary, beautiful, perfect moment. A year ago, she'd been on her last blind date, resigned to loneliness, convinced that no one would ever see past her disability to the person underneath. Now she was here, in a home filled with laughter and volcano documentaries, and a man who'd learned sign language from his mother and taught it to his daughter. A man who'd looked at her on that first night and seen not a disability or a test, but simply her. "What are you thinking about?" Hunter signed during a quiet moment when June was absorbed in the TV. "How lucky I am," Megan signed back. "I'm the lucky one." "We're all lucky," June signed, without looking away from the screen, making both adults laugh. The cat purred, the documentary droned on about pyroclastic flows. June's breathing gradually slowed as she dozed off against Megan's side. Hunter's thumb traced gentle circles on Megan's shoulder. Outside, the world continued spinning with all its chaos and cruelty and unexpected kindness. But inside this house, wrapped in blankets and love and the warm glow of the TV, 3 people who'd found each other against all odds were simply, beautifully, perfectly home. And in 3 weeks, they'd make it official. But really, they'd been a family from the moment Hunter raised his hands and signed, "It's wonderful to meet you." Everything else was just paperwork. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please don't let it end here.
Let it remind you, kindness still matters, compassion still changes lives, and hope is never wasted. Every story lifts the spirit and reminds us that light always finds its way back. And if this moment moved you, share it. Because sometimes sharing hope is the kindest thing we can do.